Okay, your meeting is now being live streamed. Okay, Josh, take it away.
Good morning, friends, and you are friends. Welcome back to Green for Life. We're back after a break. I forget what holiday it was that we, President's Day. We took a break off President's Day, and we took a long break. But we're back. This is not the only content we have. If you check out this YouTube channel, we did a live presidential debate. And so for Green for Life today, I'm joined by the chairman of the Green Party of Alaska, Robert Shields, and running for president, who has been dominating our polls. And this is what we promised. I would have them on, Jasmine Sherman. How's it going, Jasmine?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a wild ride.
I imagine so. You know, I, I believe everyone would ask this question. What made you decide to, what fired you up and decide I'm going to do the paperwork, I'm going to do all this and that to run for president? What was it? Was this something that's been brewing in you, or did you just, when it was happening, you're like, I got to do this?
So my grandmother had a seizure on my birthday, and because of COVID, they left her in the hallway. And that was the start of something's not right. Then Kyle Rittenhouse crossed state lines, did what he did, and he got away with it. And then that was when I was fed up, and I was just like, I'm finally old enough to run. I have a plan, and I have ideas, and I think that it's time that America gets a real person who's not a politician to protect real Americans. And by real Americans, I mean people who are doing the work, the labor, the structure, keeping this whole country running. Those are the Americans that I'm advocating for, real people.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, there is a lot going on. Yeah, Rittenhouse, he crossed state lines. He, ultimately killed someone, or, well, I don't know what the legal definition is, but yeah, he went over there, shot someone. Not a big, personally, I'm not a big fan of guns. I do own weapons, but I imagine I'm just gonna let them wither away instead of buying anything new. I mean, personally, I don't even upkeep them. Like, I get offers, hey, you want a gun? Like, I'm never gonna take care of it.
And see, some you, I mean, outside of hunting or home protection, you don't need a lot of weapons, right? There should be a way for you to be able to give your gun through a buyback program or add it to a gun library so someone who can't afford a gun could have access to a firearm safely.
Well,
And a lot of people, they don't know how to own weapons. I was reading the paper, and a lot of kids that get harmed through weapons, like guns. I'll say, um, a lot of them are just not locked away, kept safe from these people who have absolutely no training. And when I say these people, I mean people who are like 5 years old. They got no training to handle these things, and that's how they get hurt. It's playing around with them.
But accidentally kill people. And we acknowledge that some of the adults that are adulting haven't been adulting very well in at least my lifetimes when it comes to firearm safety. That's part of the reason that we put firearms education in my education policy because young children pick up, we have statistics of small toddlers firing these weapons. And it isn't like children are not already acclimated with weapons. They have toy guns, they have Nerf guns. They like kids who parents live on farming areas or go hunting, they're actively taught how to use these weapons. And I think it's time that we teach them how to use these weapons the same way we teach kids about safe sex. It is time that we protect the younger generation with honest education for their safety and ours, because we can't trust a lot of the adults to do the right thing.
so it sounds like our first topic this morning is going to be gun safety. So I appreciate that perspective, and definitely education is key of it. You don't see these kids from rural America on the news shooting people up. You see the kids that are in these inner cities that have basically been playing with toy guns their whole life. And it's from my experience, when you grow up on a farm, the first thing you're taught is a gun is not a toy; it's a weapon. you don't go out and take your empty guns and shoot at each other. You use that for, its intended purpose. And that's a whole, that's a whole part of the challenge, is that people are taught from a very, very young age that guns are toys, that they're to look cool, that they're manly or whatever. And it's forgotten that they're tools. And a hammer can build a house or it can tear one down. And it's really important that education about guns be taught. And as far as the Second Amendment goes, the Second Amendment was never meant to for recreational shooting or even protecting yourself from the neighbors. It was meant to protect the government from getting out of control. And that's where we get all these right-wing groups with guns and fighting the government and stuff like that. And we need a more moderate approach to these conversations. And this whole rhetoric around guns being evil, or people who you use guns being evil, moves, I think, really just avoids the responsibility of personal behavior and choices and education, and puts it on an inanimate object that can defend itself. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Not gonna lie, there are some people on the internet, like on TikTok, that are like, oh, you have a firearm policy, you're teaching children. What I'm trying to do is promote safety, but I'm also providing regulation. With the way that my policy is structured, people will have insurance for their firearms. People will have to test for their firearms, because the second part of the 2A, Second Amendment, is a well-trained militia. You keep a well-trained militia looking pregnant like I do, right? How are you supposed to run if you are as fat as me? And I can only run 4 miles in 90 minutes in water. So we have to get to a place where people who have firearms are healthy mentally, physically, and trained to use them if they need to. I mean, the issue we have is that people want to have weapons for machismo. People want to have weapons for all the wrong reasons. And very much like you said, it is a tool. It was a tool to help people be safe when they got here. It's the reason it's enshrined in our Constitution. It's never going away. So we might as well handle it responsibly. Make sure people have insurance. Make sure people are held accountable. Make sure there are real consequences for bad behavior. That's something we don't do in America for demographics that are not brown.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I think it's Norway, maybe Sweden. I think it's Norway that actually, they don't have a standing army because their entire population is their militia. And that's one of the things that I think this country could benefit from, is having more active people taking responsibility for all the freedoms that they so are adamant about protecting, to protect their freedoms. But they also have to remember that part of that freedom is protecting other people's rights to also live free. And that's why we need to be working together.
And I didn't think I would get into this today, but we're going deep into gun safety. I don't think anyone here is saying we're gonna take guns away or anything. In fact, Jasmine, you are trans, so you're probably more hooked into this issue than I am.
Yeah, I'm trans and I'm a socialist. I want to be able to protect myself. I do not walk around unarmed because people want to hurt people that look like me. I have no hesitation on defending myself, and I want to make sure other trans people, other marginalized groups, women, anybody, I want you to be safe. And so I encourage going to your range and practicing and making sure that if you do end up in a situation, you are able to defend yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing. People, when this issue comes up, they often talk about, the need to protect yourself. But yeah, that's something that we don't often go into, is there's a lot of violence towards, trans people now. That's been increasing because, unfortunately, they're being used as a scapegoat. I was talking to a coworker about this week, and with as much attention as trans people get, I don't think they're 1% of the population. So yeah, they are being scapegoated for, far bigger issues, unfortunately. And they definitely need something to protect themselves, which might be a pistol or whatever, because it's life or death sometimes out there for these people.
Yeah, I also think, though, by giving people universal health care and giving them access to mental health care, it will cut down on some of the bigotry. When people can go into a place and there's multiple types of therapy. So for everyone that's like, I don't want talk therapy, my universal health care plan covers any accredited therapy type. There's dance therapy. There is multiple therapy. There are dudes who go out into the middle of a stream and yell at a waterfall. That is their actual certified therapy. We can do this. We just have to start acknowledging that everyone is not the same. Everyone is not going to be this amalgamated. We're all going to be different. And I'd rather us, instead of trying to force ourselves to be a melting pot, to be a chef salad. Let the tomatoes be tomatoes, let the lettuce be lettuce, and the onions be onions. We have to embrace everyone's differences and understand how that works together for the benefit of all of us.
And so talking about universal healthcare, I agree. It's something that's absolutely needed. The way we do healthcare in this country, it's ridiculous. And would save a lot more money going to a universal healthcare system. To argue that someone should be so hooked to the hip to the employer because that's a lot of the way people get healthcare anymore is very frustrating. And when they do go to the hospital, they have to deal with all this insurance. Like, I imagine on the hospital side, it's very frustrating too when you treat someone and you you try to get paid and they're not going to cover this or that and they have to go to the person themselves for the money. It's ridiculous. It'd be far simpler, save a lot more money and time if we just had a universal healthcare system. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lobbyists that they're in power right now, and this is the because of that. That's the system that we have, right? Unfortunately. So say, I mean, when you do get into the White House, is this going to be your top priority, or spending your political capital? We in the debate we did talk about the fact a lot of, like since FDR's administration, a lot of people get into the first 100 days of what's accomplished, and it seemed like a lot was done. Um, and I'm just using Democrats as a example because that's what I can think of off the top of my head. I remember Obama, the big thing he got accomplished was the Affordable Care Act, what a lot of people call Obamacare. He spent a lot of political capital on that. So when you get into office, what do you think is the first big thing you're gonna do, or what are the big policies that you want to spend your political capital on out the get go?
So I want to acknowledge I have no political capital. I'm a fat person with purple hair today. When I get to the White House, I will be a fat person with a different colored hair that day. But my plan, no social capital, because I'm not trying to stay a politician. Every policy and plan I will be signing into executive order. So that way we can go ahead and guarantee that Americans have what they want. What will happen is that I am doing age limits and age caps and term limits. Those policies should trigger new elections. What we will be needing is the American public to get on their job. Me getting into office is not the end. We have to replace the Congress people, we have to replace the Senate, and we have to expand the Supreme Court. What is going to happen is that everything I'm talking about, I'm going to write in the law day one. I am going to then be sued by the Senate and the Congress. But because there are so many executive orders that we will be doing, it is going to overwhelm the courts. Our strategy is to figure out what are the things that they are going to be going to court to sue us over first. Is it the right for Americans to have health care, housing, education? Or is it going to be the fact that if you are an elected official, you can no longer own commodities? Is it the fact that you're an elected official and you will no longer be able to be a lobbyist? Those are the things that we have seen that our elected officials care about, things that matter to them and their pocketbook. So those are the things that we anticipate will be going to court first, because those are the things that we are doing immediately to stop them getting paid from corporations.
So Jasmine, I have a question for you. So we know that getting money out of politics is a priority because it corrupts the process. And the way to do that is to get money out of politics to get politics out of the things that money's control. And healthcare is a big part of it. I think one of the biggest failings in this country with healthcare is the fact that we have made it a commercial commodity. So it's no longer about people keeping people healthy. It's about making as much money as you can off the systems that are in place. And without insurance, without public health care, a lot of these drugs would simply be unaffordable, and most of them are unaffordable now. So, how would you, in your presidency, work to separate the influence that the pharmaceutical companies have on media and the government?
Oh, I'm nationalizing. We are not going to be doing this. There in a Sherman administration, there is no more private doctors. There is no more private insurance. There is no more big pharma. Everything is going to be for the public, by the public when it comes to those kinds of companies. And what people don't understand when they hear me say that, the government nationalizes things all the time. You just don't know about it and you aren't paying attention to it. Like Amtrak is one of those things. What I will say is what's going to happen is because we will be in control of the pharmaceuticals and the medicals, we can control how people are be paying for that because we are going to make sure that it's included within your universal health care. We already pay for the research that these companies benefit from. Most people don't understand that. These companies don't go out and go, oh, there is a problem, let us tackle it. No, scientists and researchers who use the grant money that your tax dollars pay do this research, and then these companies come in and then they buy it. A lot of the prescriptions that are on the market, you already paid for it, and then you're just getting doubly screwed. It's why other countries don't have the same problems with these same corporations for their medicines.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. We go in and taxpayers pay for the research, and then taxpayers have to pay for the insurance, and then they have to pay for this and that. It is a ridiculous system. Something I wanted to go back to a little bit is you said your plan was to, flow in a whole bunch of executive orders to, disrupt the system. And that has me thinking, a lot of the government right now isn't acting the way it should be. Like, Congress seems very passive and letting like any administration do whatever it wants when it comes to, pushing the permanent war state, what a lot of people call the military industrial complex, and, never taking a vote on any sort of war because they don't want to be held responsible. And the Supreme Court seems to overstep its bounds, creating laws rather than interpreting laws. It's very frustrating, and I think a shock to the system is sort of what we need, and what the Green Party of Alaska is calling for is a constitutional convention. How do you feel about that?
I support a constitutional convention. And this time, when you guys write the new constitution, I would actually like to be a whole person instead of 3/5 a person. I am not someone that is stuck on the current constitution. It doesn't serve us. And I also hope people understand when Jefferson and his ilk were writing the Constitution, they said it was supposed to be rewritten every 20 years. What we have is outdated. It does not serve us. And I am not in the business of maintaining things that do not help me. I think that we need to have a constitutional convention. I do think it should happen when we have a new Congress and new senators. But right now, there are tons of Republican states pushing for a constitutional convention. The issue we have is we don't have people who are representative of Americans, real Americans, not corporations, in office when that constitutional convention occurs. And I'm running for office to make sure that we can get good quality people to provide protections for all people. There's no reason that gay people have no protections. There's no reason that Black people are 3/5 a person. There's no reason that we don't have other things in our system to make sure that, trans people are protected and gay people, young gay people are protected. Children in America, they do not have rights. I could slap an adult and go to jail. If you slap a child, you won't go to jail. That is not okay. So there are a lot of things that we have to do in our Constitution to start protecting Americans, even those who are not old enough to write a check or vote.
So, Jasmine, I've got a follow-up question to that and a clarifying statement. So, we understand that a constitutional convention, I think it was brought up by Roland, would be disastrous because it would throw the country into chaos. But country already seems like it's in chaos. But to clarify, what we were looking to do first and foremost was recognizing that the parties themselves have a purpose because they allow people to organize who are busy and to narrow things down. But they have to be somebody, they have to be groups people want to join. And so especially with the Green Party, there's been a lot of talk about us rejoining the Green Party and stuff, but we aren't going to join a party that's just going to continue to suppress us, and that's what they've continued to do. And so our objective was to call for the parties to have their own constitutional convention of their organization, of their civic unions, kind of like a revival of vows in a marriage. Why are we here? What are we trying to get out of this? And even I think that this would be helpful for the libertarians, the Republicans, the Democrats, as well as the Greens. So do you think that this could be a practical first step towards a constitutional convention, which hasn't been held in this country since 1878, I believe? Or do you think that we should just focus on a national constitutional convention and let the parties fade away?
I think that the party should fade away. And I say that because so many people are like, I'm a Democrat and I don't know what that means, right? Like, if you're a Democrat currently, you support genocide. If you're a Republican currently, you support genocide. If you are in the Green Party, you claim to value fair and free elections. But we've seen what people, when you look at the press release that just came out from Oregon or the story that came out in California, the political parties have bad actors as well. It isn't like we would think. And so I think it needs to be on the national scale, and the parties themselves should fade away. And I say that because originally political party was just a vehicle to get an individual who had the same values as you elected. It wasn't supposed to be identity. And a lot of people have made their political party their identity. And that is such a big problem for us because we're not getting things accomplished because this is my identity, right? I have to do this. Instead of going, the Congressional Budget Office, if you're a Republican, the Congressional Budget Office says it is literally cheaper to give everyone health insurance. Republicans came to be the party of fiscal responsibility. Why is that not still a priority? Do you see what I'm saying? They're doing the more expensive thing. That goes against the value of financial responsibility. When it comes to Democrats, they go, oh, we love people. Then why are you funding and complicit in genocide, right? I think it's less about the parties and more about the humans, and we need to do that. But I also say that as someone that believes we have the technology to get to a one-for-one voting system, because I think it should just be people advocating for their government. But maybe that's like me being too libertarian in my social.
Well, we do have the ability. I mean, American Idol shows it every year. I mean, we do have the ability that every single American with a cell phone, which is most Americans, have the ability to review issues, vote on issues. And, some say that we're getting to the point where we could be moving towards a direct democracy where we're all engaged all the time and everything, especially at the local level. That's where we found most of the discrimination, especially with the parties, is especially here in Alaska. They love to use this nonpartisan rule to disenfranchise smaller parties. But at the same time, the moment the election's over, what do we hear about on the evening news? The response from the Democrats and the Republicans. We don't hear about third-party perspectives. We don't hear about all these different issues that are out there that need representation. So there was a role for lobbyists, there was a role for parties, but it is worth noting whether they're useful now. So on the healthcare, back on the healthcare question, I had a follow-up question in regards to, so in this country, there are a lot of chemicals that go into our food. Most people think that most our food isn't even real food anymore, it's food products, and some of these chemicals are actually banned in other countries. So as president, what would you do to get toxins and poisons out of our food system?
So I already have a policy for it. It's going to be released. Hopefully, I apologize to anybody listening to this that is a Jasmine Sherman fan, because I know I've been telling you guys we're going to get it released, but we really want to move off of Wix because we don't support Israel. And we've gotten an influx of people who have joined, especially we've got this new amazing developer named Sparkles, and they're working on our website. So the policy will be put on that website, but we do have an agricultural policy, and we do remove all of the food dyes that are poisonous, like the same things you can't get in the EU, you won't be able to get them here. But we go a step further, and we also remove latex from the medical facilities. We also remove it from educational facilities, and we remove it from restaurants because people with latex allergies. So we address the food dye issues and the quality of food. I don't think that food should be made with so many different chemicals that you don't know what they are. Like it used to be, all right, I'm not a good cook, so please forgive me, right? But you used to have, like, when you wanted to bake a cookie, I think sugar, flour, a little bit of salt, and whatever the like flavoring was. It wasn't some benzoprozole long term. That's why nothing tastes good to us anymore. And that was a long-winded answer from a fat person that takes food very seriously. But I would like food to be good and healthy for us again. I do think one of the best things about my education policy is we go ahead and put gardens in every classroom in America so kids are eating fresh, good vegetables that they can take home with them. That is one thing I did learn from charter schools, is making sure that there's available food for children has been very helpful to the families. I don't like charter schools because of the way they're funded. And I also don't care for private schools, but I do appreciate them acknowledging that the kids that come to their schools are hungry during the day.
So this is a show by the Green Party of Alaska, and I say it every episode. I hate being too Alaska centric. One of my coworkers was making fun of this for me, saying, "Oh, Alaska, oh, Katsumi, it's where it's all at." But we are actually just talking about this issue. The governor just vetoed $100 million going for new school spending. It's been flat ever since he's been governor. And what he's saying is he didn't like the bill because there wasn't more money put into charter schools. What I find frustrating is, they're saying how great charter schools are in Alaska, but that's what 5-6% of the people, well, like in the school system. So he basically like we got a terrible car because Alaska has one of the worst education systems in the country. We got a terrible car, but hey, the headlights are nice. We gotta be working on that. That doesn't seem to make too much sense to me. Like, I feel like you should be trying to improve the whole instead of just like doing this thing that a handful of people are gonna even be able to participate in, honestly.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead, Jasmine.
I really wanted to address that because I know people are going to later be like, well, what do you mean you don't like charter schools? In the Sherman administration, we eliminate private schools, we eliminate charter schools. We are deferring so much money to other entities instead of just fixing public schools. Pay teachers actual real wages. They need six figures. They're dealing with humans, they're dealing with emotions, and they're dealing with your families. And some of you are great, but some of you know who some of you are. I think it is time that we paid support staff, the people who are supporting your children, the 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 faculty. There's no more school nurses every day. Kids get hurt every day at school. Why isn't there a medical professional at school to help with these things? I think if we actually went ahead and funded public schools instead of siphoning away from public schools, we could have great public school educations. And I say this as a foster kid that would not have survived without the kindness of a teacher saying, hey, stop selling drugs and read a book. You are smart. And I think that is something that we in our society need to acknowledge. School in that place, it's what we've allowed school to deteriorate to that has made it the bad place. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, that's great. I believe firmly that if we're not investing in education, there's no point in investing in anything else. So one of our opportunities that we're looking to expand that goes into this is that I'm assuming that you're familiar with STEAM, and I'm curious what you think if science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics can provide a venue for engagement with the schools and the public, like true interactions, instead of just having somebody coming in and making a presentation on robotics, having a company come in and help fund a robotics lab per se.
I agree. That is in my education policy already. We have to include technology because we also have to include, not to say the blue collar stuff, but the blue collar stuff. Put home ec back in school. Put like actual functional education, like I hate to say changing a tire, but fuck changing a tire, how you work on cars, right? We need to make sure there are robotics labs. But cars are computers now. We need to make sure there are there is a way for people to learn auto mechanics just like they did back in the 50s and the 40s without the misogyny and the racism. But we have to put those industries in our schools if we want our children to be competitive when they go for the workforce. I have no problem with the concept of apprenticeships. I do have a problem with canceling high school for people, but I do feel like we have to let people be who they are, and not everyone is going to want to sit behind a desk. And so if we make sure that people who are interested in automotives can do that right in high school, that helps the community, because if you don't have to take your car to an expensive shop, you could take it down the street to the younger kids who need to experiment and practice. That saves you, and it helps the local economy, and it teaches them. Not putting older mechanical shops out of business, because everybody knows not everybody's going to want to deal with students for a discount. But some of us who could and would totally have no problem with that.
Okay. So Jasmine, I have a question in regards to immigration. Obviously, it's a big challenge in this country, but it seems that our national policy has shifted away from this big statue we have out in New York Harbor. So I just want to read this real quick, because the Statue of Liberty says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your the wretched refuge of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, the tempest tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." So how do we live up to that dream, and how do we keep that dream alive without overrunning our system and not being able to provide for anybody?
So if I can be, can't try to be all the time. America never said that. The French gave us that, and we just stuck it up like a beautiful item that it is. I don't think that America has ever embraced that statue. I do think that we are poised, though, with this younger generation to be a welcoming place for all people. I do think the data shows that this country functions better when there are all walks of life people on this rock with us in Turtle Island. I do think that the younger generation does want to live together in a little bit more of a harmonious idea. And that's not like less about cultural appropriation, less about exploitation. We can do that. We can be that. I just think that we have to make sure that we actually decide that that's how we want to live collectively. I feel like if we go ahead and make our immigration policy what it was when people were coming into Ellis Island, and this of course applies to dockers and dreamers. If you want to be a citizen, I want you to be a citizen. If you are a person with no criminal record and you want to come to America, come on. We need you. Your voice is valuable. We appreciate you coming and contributing to the economy, to the experience, to the way that things can be better. It used to take 10 hours or 9 hours. I think that with the technology we have, we can do it in an hour. We do it for rich people all the time when they go, like a $2 million investment in America. Come on down. We have no problem when it's for somebody who is going to add to the exploitation or make us profitable. We should do that for everyone.
So I wanted to ask, what is the plan going forward? We see what's happening right now at the southern border. And I just wanted to say, you know, some people will say, you know, some of these people are criminals. That it's just a handful, I imagine. But you know, we also have to go into what created this crisis. You know, part of it is I forget if it's Title 42 where it was COVID. I mean, we did have the pandemic, so for a while we weren't doing the same thing. We were just taking people and just throwing them across the border, which is, of course, increased the numbers to what we have today. But you know, we're also a lot of these people are fleeing economic issues, like and some of it created by us. You know, definitely in El Salvador, where we did some coups. You know, there's definitely stuff that we've done that haven't made these people's lives easier, and a lot of it's going to increase. That we're getting more and more climate devastation. Some areas of the world are just going to become uninhabitable for human life if we continue in the route we're going. How do you is there a plan to uh you know, fix some of these other issues as well, Jasmine?
So there is a plan to address the environment. I do not believe or subscribe to there's no border crisis at the border. We know because people have gone down to the border with their families, spent their money, and they found nothing. There isn't a border crisis. There is, like you said, destabilization that the United States is 100% responsible. If you look at my foreign policy, you will see that we close all 800 bases. We bring our soldiers home and we begin to actually renegotiate with our foreign partners across the board, um, look equitably, right? It is time that America stops being a bully. People are fed up about that. Like the reason that BRICS is occurring at the rate that it's occurring is because people are tired of America's shit. And we have to get ourselves together before our dollar value is completely worthless and go ahead and create these social safety nets because when things get harder, you want to make sure that your family and you are okay. I do the environmental concerns, but I also want to make sure that we know that by us reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, it is going to reduce how much we have to depend on bad actors like Saudi Arabia, right? If we go ahead and provide people with a rail, high speed rail from coast to coast, north and south, we can go ahead and eliminate the reason that we need so much gas. If we can also fix our environment, we put people back to work. There's so much we can do. A lot of policies that are all interconnected, which do address it, but every single one has a real solution. Really, and if you read a policy of mine that doesn't have an answer you're looking for, email me at officialaccount@fatsocialist.com to ask me or schedule a 30-minute meeting with me directly. I do feel like we need to set the bar that politicians work for you. And if your politician is unaccessible, that's a person that doesn't work for you. I have never been able in all of my working years, no, I'm not going to meet with you today. Politicians work for you. You are their boss. They cannot continue to say that they refuse to meet with you. Politicians that don't hold town halls and hear what you say, that should not be allowed. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
No, it's perfectly fine.
I got a follow-up question for you. So you mentioned something in your last comment that sadly a lot of people probably are unfamiliar with. So could you elaborate what exactly does turtles and this idea of Turtle Island have to do with your campaign and policies?
Oh, so America was a place that was colonized, right? So the indigenous people were here. This place that we call America today was originally called Turtle Island. And I'm not going to pretend to tell you why. I don't know why it was called Turtle Island. I just know that the name is Turtle Island. And I know that we need to give indigenous people their lands back. By giving indigenous people the lands back that we stole, it allows us to eliminate property tax and to make sure that Americans can live here and house everybody in quality, safe housing that I, Jasmine Sherman, would sleep in. And I'm not saying that to be funny, but a lot of people are like, we're going to give everybody a house. Giving someone a piece of a wooden box isn't a house, right? It needs to make sure there's central air, there are amenities. We are going to provide everyone with a quality place to live. We do that by giving the indigenous people their lands back and allowing them to I am forgetting the specific word that goes with what their role would be. It's like superintendent. They would supervise that. When it comes um when it comes to people like regular people, we would go about our regular lives. And I'm just going to explain my housing policy while I'm rolling it all out. Because like if you bought a stolen car, the police would make you give it back. We have all bought houses on stolen land, and we have to return that land. What we will be doing when we return that land is stewardship, letting the indigenous people be stewards of their land. That does not mean you will be houseless. Everyone will be housed in quality housing, but it does mean that if you decide to bring an invasive species plant to Easter PP Wichita, they might say, no, this is going to hurt our local environment. And I would use Alabama and their kudzu problem because they went and got kudzu from Japan and it's an invasive species and it is hurting the agriculture and the environment in Alabama across the state.
Okay, so I got a follow-up question there because Alaska Natives, our relationship, well, their relationship with the federal government is much different than the relationship with First Nations people in the Lower 48, although it's still just pretty atrocious. But you're suggesting that under your administration that you would basically, I would have to give up my land that I own as far as the borough goes, that I pay taxes on, that has my name on the title, and they and then where am I supposed to go?
You're not going anywhere. You're going to get the money you paid back for your house, and you're going to remain in your house until you decide you want to move. And I would also add to anybody listening to us right now, the government can come take your shit today, and they do often, and don't pay you for it often. What I want to do is provide you with your housing, right? A lot of people who own their home, um, they're living in homes that have roof issues, electrical issues. We will be fixing all of that. But you are going to be given the money that you've paid into your home right back, and you are allowed to remain in your home. When you are ready to relocate, do an Airbnb type app. Your current house where you're sitting today will come off of the market essentially and will be repaired and upgraded like a flip, like we would do for anything else. We flip it, we clean it, and the next family will move in 30 days. You will go with your furniture or wherever, whatever you own, not wherever, to whatever place that you decide you want to do. If you are someone that, like me, I would love to live in New York and I need to live in Arizona in the winter. Probably not Arizona, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be somebody that doesn't live in the same place. People can move every 6 months. And you would have that money to help you on your reset. Like, my whole platform slogan is let's reset. And it's funny because during the debate last time, a person messaged me privately and was like, have you heard of the Great Reset? And I was like, I'm not going to let bigots and racists control my campaign. Our slogan is let's reset because it doesn't work for all of us. Even people who are doing fairly well in today's standards are still not doing well. And so my goal would be, I would give you your money back and you could use that money for whatever you want, reinvesting it in the economy, saving it for your nest egg, finding a different way to provide your children or future lineages with an inheritance. But we just won't be doing it through property anymore.
You know what I find really upsetting about the Great Reset and the people that push this idea is, so the idea is they're bringing in people to have babies and like to have a majority non-white country, but these people who believe in the Great Reset. So if a black person came to America and had a baby with a white person, they don't consider the baby white. So their math only works when like if the baby of the half black, half white person is just purely black afterward, they don't count as a white person. So that's how they get their math to work for their nonsense theory, honestly.
That and the quiverful moment, like it is, some of those are based in racism, but I do feel like people need to be able to live how they want to live, right? Like, I do feel like we have to start making sure that things are okay for the average American. And one of the things that I need average Americans to do is stop thinking for CEOs, stop thinking for corporations. A lot of y'all out here are like, I'm a capitalist. Nah, my dude, you own 2 trucks and you're paying a mortgage on your house. You're not a capitalist. You are someone that is living in capitalism, but you ain't got no fucking money. I mean, you don't have any money. And capitalists have money. Capitalists have capital. You can be aspiring to have capital, but I literally put money in your pocket faster than the people that you're trying to be like. Because if capitalism was going to work for you, if it was going to work for your family, I know that I don't work that hard in life, but I know my grandparents did. And I know that they didn't have anything to show for it. And you know your grandparents worked hard. And so if this American dream was real, all these people who really did work hard would be rewarded, and they're not.
And I actually wanted to get into this before the tail end, since we got a quarter of the show left. Right now, I'm studying regenerative economics, and before I was really into communism, and the reason I was, it's sort of a way to make the labor going into work that you do more democratic. We celebrate how in politics how we've gone from kings to having presidents to having representative governments, but if you go to work, it's basic. It's like you're going back a couple hundred years, because a lot of workplaces you don't get very much say. You're told what to do. Whoever owns it a lot of the time, especially here, it's gonna go to the next of kin. So I mean, it's basically like you have a dynasty there. And it's very frustrating because I'd like to have more say in what goes around in my workplace, but that's just not the economic system that we have. If you if you're elected president, how do you plan to deal with that? I know you had some issues with in the free and equal debate, someone going on just to promote socialism or communism. I mean, what's your answer to that labor issue, Jasmine?
My platform provides everyone with housing, healthcare, education, and universal basic income. You cannot, in a Sherman administration, not have equal footing with your employer. Because what that means is your employer can't threaten you and say, I'll fire you. Okay, fire me. I have insurance. I have money coming in. I will be okay. Your employer needs you more than you need your employer. But currently, because your employer has your health insurance, currently, because you have to pay your rent or your mortgage, you are stuck. If you were on an even footing and saying, you are going to have to treat me with respect or I will go home, strikes and unionizing would be a lot easier if everyone had housing, healthcare, education, and funds that were coming in. People would have no problem getting on a picket line if they knew that they could still feed their families and support their children while they were demanding equitable treatment. My platform is not providing you with a utopia. My platform is providing you with the infrastructure to get equal.
So I have a question for you, Jasmine. It's really odd that one of the most important jobs, president of the United States, in most political positions, they don't ask you on the application, what is your experience? What's your background? What qualifies for you qualifies you for this job? They ask you, do you live in this district? Do you have a pulse? And do you meet these basic ed requirements? And I think that's a huge issue. So can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and your education as they pertain to what makes you feel like you're qualified to run this country?
So I want to say, in regard to barriers to entry for running to president, right? We never had an educational requirement for George Washington or anybody else. You just had to be a white man. You had to own some land, right? I don't want to get away. I don't want to add new barriers to entry, but I do have a master's degree in finance. I have a bachelor's degree in business, and I have been running a mutual aid in Charlotte, North Carolina, providing for the houseless population for over the last, holy shit, I'm old now. Almost 10 years. I can't believe where my life went. What makes me qualified for the position is I go hungry just like you do. I have seen my parents suffer just like you have. I have seen adults around me have to decide between feeding the children or feeding themselves. What makes me qualified to run for this position is that I'm an American. It shouldn't take rocket science to treat people well. That is literally what government was designed for, or it should be, in my opinion. The government should work for you and should take care of the people. You don't need to have all of these additional qualifications. You shouldn't need to be rich, because the minute I say that or subscribe to that, it will be used and twisted to kick out Black and brown people and women. So I think that it's fine to leave it open. You had to be born here. You had to be here for 14 years, and you got to be over 35. I think that that's fine. I think what we need to do is start making a system, though, that asks regular people to participate. So often when people say, I'm going to run for office, someone goes, oh, you don't wear suits. Oh, you don't look like this. None of those things apply. I just have to give a damn about Americans. And because people have been typecasting what our politicians are, it's why we've got the shitty politicians we have. It's not about who you are or how you treat people. It's about how you look and how much money you have and where you went to school. None of that shit matters at the end of the day, because the real people who make America run are not all college educated. They're not all beautiful, but they are always busting their ass for other Americans.
I'd say that's probably the thing that makes them beautiful. Thank you for that, Jasmine. So, um, s- I was wondering, once you do become president, what's your well, you already said your plan is to throw out all these executive orders and whatnot. Um, is there a big pet? Well, I take that back. Is there a big infrastructure project that you'd like to work on right away? Like, what would be your infrastructure priority? Like the government
And
has all this money to throw around. What would it be?
right. We need to make everything ADA compliant. So my biggest infrastructure plan is to take all of our roads, and all of the places where there are sidewalks and places where there are not sidewalks, and make sure that every place is accessible. People with disabilities cannot get around in this country. It is a lockbox for them because you have a wheelchair and you can't drive your wheelchair on the sidewalk. That's a problem. These potholes, we have stairs in this country, and other countries literally have stairs that go down like an escalator, an elevator, so the wheelchair can roll right onto it and that person can be lifted to the top of the floor. We can do this without, we can do this quickly and efficiently. The way we do our roads right now is the dumbest way that has ever been seen. Do you know that there are road pieces that work just like Legos? They're puzzle pieces, they fit together, right? These roads can filter our water, test our water. Because it's doing the water drain off, it uses renewable energy to power some of the things that we have, like these stoplights. So my first plan is a major infrastructure plan, everything ADA compliant. I am putting Americans back to work by just making sure that they take care of their neighbors. Um, Another thing that I think that we are not doing as a country is making our roads heated and cooled. There is no reason in 2024 when technology to safely heat and cool our roads and our sidewalks that we don't. I have lost a staffer who slipped and fell on the ice this year. I am not going to continue to lose people behind dumb shit that we already have the technology to fix. And I don't mean any disrespect, but Alaska, all of your roads should be heated and cooled. Like, people should be able to walk without having to. I don't know how you guys are doing it.
It's tough. I think it's been every day I slip and fall, though. Not I'm up in Kotzebue, so not all our roads are paved either. It's unfortunately for us. And I wanted to go back to the was it the ADA? Well, compliant to people who have disabilities. Right now, I'm on the Kotzebue City Council, and to our city hall in the chambers that we meet, you have to enter the building, which there is a ramp for people who are in a wheelchair, but you have to walk up a flight of stairs that no one with a wheelchair is going up of. And this is something that we've talked about. The attorney told us it's going to be $1 million to put in a new elevator. So our plan right now is this: we're going to get a different city hall. But yeah, this goes into exactly what you're talking about. People who have a disability, that shouldn't damn them to, with a person in a wheelchair, shouldn't be damned to not be able to participate in our system. And it's sort of, it's not just that they don't get to participate, we don't get their influence, their input. It's really frustrating.
But we take their tax money. We put
Yep.
restrictions on them. We have a big problem in taking from people and not giving. And we don't address this enough because people don't think of it enough. But there's no reason that a felon shouldn't be able to vote. There is no reason that people have lost their ability, because the whole point is you served your time. You did your crime, you served your time, and you're out. We continue to hold people hostage. We want people to suffer in this country. And for anybody who's like, I don't want people to suffer, then if you don't want people to suffer, then you need to change the way you vote, because the current people in charge have no incentive to listen to you. We have been marching for months. We have been telling, and I don't even just mean about Gaza. Look at the climate march. There was a climate march September 17th for Joe Biden. He's the Democrat. He's the lesser evil about the environment. And what did he do? He didn't acknowledge that shit. He didn't talk about it. He didn't give any. I got to stop cussing. My mama's going to listen to this. What I mean is, we already see what doing the same thing gets us. You don't hear people with ideas like mine because you're used to the same thing. You don't contact your local media and you say, I want to hear from different voices, because they're owned by the corporations, because you all think you're mini capitalists. So I just feel like we need to have a society that benefits all people. And the way we benefit all people is bringing all people back into the conversation. I truly support a 1-for-1 voting system. I don't think it's something that I can get accomplished in my 4 years' time, but I think if everyone in housing, healthcare, and education, the legislators that you pick can focus on that. Because if we can keep your money safe on your phone, we can keep your vote safe.
So, Jasmine, we've talked a lot about concrete, or in infrastructure, which is a lot of concrete, we've talked about healthcare, we've talked about transportation, we've talked about criminal justice and stuff. So one of the major priorities for the Green Party of Alaska is the federal legalization of cannabis, because we believe it's a gateway to reforming the criminal justice system, and a way to free hemp from the stigma of being related to a drug, and allows it to thrive as a major industrial product to meet all of these demands. And one of my questions is, how would you go about making this a reality?
So the first thing that I do in my universal healthcare policy is decriminalize all drugs. I put safe use centers in every zip code according, and not just safe use centers, but a medical facility where you can see a doctor, an obstetrician, and a dentist, right? Put that all in the same zip code. So people within that zip code have access to that. People who work in that zip code can work at those facilities. There's no reason that you have to drive 25 miles out to go to work when you could just work right in your neighborhood, be home for your kids fast. Um, I believe in decriminalizing drugs because if we want people to get off of those harder substances, we have to make it okay for them to heal. I believe that cannabis is medicine. There are people who have seizures that are not even over the age of 18 that benefit from cannabis. I also believe that because of Reagan and racist and bigotry, the drugs, DARE, that program, all of that was started to hurt Black people. So the money that is coming from the cannabis sales in the Sherman administration goes to pay reparations to Black people over the age of 16 in the United States of America. So this is all interlinked in my plan. But yes, I support decriminalizing drugs. I support people having access to cannabis because it is medicine. And I use the funds of that medicine, which is covered by your universal health care, to pay for the crimes and the atrocities that some ignorant policies of people before my time have done.
So a quick follow-up on that. There has been some advocacy for using the taxation of hemp and cannabis products to fund a medical system. Do you feel that that's an appropriate way to fund a holistic healthcare system?
I feel like the way I plan to fund some of this healthcare are from the corporations that have poisoned our system, right? So my triple bottom accounting policy goes back 37 years. Corporations that have taken and poisoned and polluted. Some of the worst bad actors will be covering the cost of that at the immediate outset. That's how I've budgeted for that. I have in all of my plans not touched the Department of Defense's budget. And the reason for that is we have to give Hawaii their land back. We have to give Puerto Rico their land back. We have to end the occupation in Guam and the other places where Americans have been encroaching on people's necks. I plan to use to pay those countries rations and to work on the cleanup because we have destroyed a lot of Hawaii's environment. And so I don't know if that, let me know if you need another follow-up if I didn't answer your question as succinct.
Well, we
Well,
appreciate. Go ahead, Josh.
yeah, I just wanted to say, and I believe Robert was going to say this, we're almost at the top of the hour, and I appreciate ADJL7 in the chat. Well, now I just wanted to bring up this Wednesday is our presidential debate that Jasmine's going to be participating in. She's on this podcast, as we said at the beginning, because she's topped the polls. And yeah, so the plan is we'll do a bit. Well, uh, I'm not going to be moderating that debate. Wasn't the plan originally for the first one, but anyway, I'll be doing this what I'm doing right now, looking at YouTube and making sure there's questions. Unfortunately, that wasn't the idea for this podcast, but it will be for the future, and see if we'll be anyone live in the chat like they are right now. Will be
So a lot of my base is very excited. A lot of my base is very excited. We told them yesterday about me debating Afro Man. We explained why I'm not debating Jill Stein, and then we explained that I would be debating Afro Man. And people are so excited about seeing this interaction on Wednesday. And I do know, I guess that we should update people because I just found out that it's not happening on Wednesday. The date has been moved.
Yeah, I've been in contact with Afro Man. He's very excited. Unfortunately, there was a conflict of interest for this Wednesday, but we definitely have now, and I want to be clear to the audience that we definitely have him down to debate the winner of these debates. The polling trends suggest that Jasmine, you will continue to lead. However, we cannot guarantee that, and our role for the Green Party of Alaska is to make sure that we are creating a space for people to have choices. We're not advocating you. We're not. We haven't decided to endorse you, just like we're not endorsing Afro Man. We're just giving space to other candidates because that's what's being denied to them. So I do want to acknowledge and try to keep this to the top of the hour. We can in the recording and continue to have some conversations about next week. But just to let people know, we will be doing live polling during the debate, so you'll have to be watching us on YouTube in order to poll. We are going to be doing 4 rounds where candidates will be debating each other, and then the last one will be debating Jasmine. And then the winner of that debate will go on. Well, the top 3 will go on, and then the top runner-up will debate Afro Man. So I'm assuming that's going to be you, but I don't want to lay that out there, and people will have to join next week in order to get the link to polls. So it'll be like American Idol. You can poll as much as you want, but you can only poll during the debates and actually during the segment here. So I'll send out more information on that. And Jasmine, very much want to appreciate you coming on the show today. Thank you for taking the time. Josh, I really want to appreciate all the hard work you're doing in keeping this show together and putting it on. But we are at the top of the hour. So I do want to go ahead and end this so we can be concise and thank everybody for taking the time to watch it, whether it's live or in person. Please visit our website, alaskagreens.org, and stay in touch.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I don't want to. Okay, so I also need to make sure that we stop the live version here.